Alright, so in this video I'm going to sort of show you the steps that you take in order to choose a method for solving a quadratic equation, or for finding the zeros for a quadratic equation. So this isn't necessarily a prescribed system that works every time, but it's just more guidelines to follow in order to choose the appropriate method to use for finding the zeros. So, let's get started. First thing that you want to do is you want to ask yourself, does this have a b value? Does this have a b value? And if it does, then you're going to attempt to solve by factoring. We'll say attempt. To solve by factoring. And if no, then solve by square roots. So if there is no b value, it'll be way easier and way faster to solve by square roots. But we have a b value, so we are going to attempt to factor. So what's the first thing we do? Well, first I'll write second. Attempt to factor. So we're going to attempt to factor. And then when we attempt to factor, we do 1 times negative 3a times c equals negative 3. And we need the product to equal negative 3 and the sum of our factors to equal 3. So we could do 3 times 1. But it doesn't matter how we cut 3 and 1. We're never going to be able to get 3. We'll end up with positive or negative 2. Or positive or negative 4. So we'll never get 3. So we're not going to be able to factor. So we can't factor. So now we're going to need to try something else. So let's try, third thing you're going to want to try is completing the square. And for completing the square, this is one where we're going to have a little bit of discretion. In Math 3, we need to be very good at completing the square, so we are going to spend some time practicing it. However, for this example, we're not going to get into it too much. A good general rule as far as choosing the easiest method is if your b value is divisible by 2, then completing the square is a good option to, at the very least, try. And in this case, we have 3, which is not evenly divisible by 2, so we're not going to use completing the square. So that's out. So last, we have what I consider sort of our fail-safes, the two methods that will work all the time. And they're also the two methods that I would encourage you to use when checking your work. And those are the quadratic formula and graphing. And even of the two, the quadratic formula is guaranteed to give you an answer, because sometimes our answers will be imaginary numbers and graphing will not show you the imaginary numbers. So quadratic formula is the, as we said a little bit earlier, it is the one method to rule them all. It's kind of like our ring in this case. So the quadratic formula, which is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we just plug and chug. We start punching in numbers and do some simplifications and see what we get. So let's do that. So negative b, so negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 3 all over 2 times 1. And one bad habit that I have is I forget to indicate what things are equal to. This is equal to x, so this is equal to x. So now x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 minus 4 times 1 is negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 3 gives us positive 12. So 9 plus 12 divided by 2 times 1 gives you 2. And we simplify this so that we have x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 21, 9 plus 12 over 2. And 3 and 2 do not share any common factors, so we're not going to simplify any further. 21 is already in simplest form. You could try 7 and 3. Neither of those are perfect squares, so you will be good. So we'll rewrite this sort of in our answer form, where x equals negative 3 plus the square root of 21 over 2, and x equals negative 3 equals negative 3 minus the square root of 21 over 2. So that would be your solution in this case. So again, this is sort of guidelines. It's not a full-on every single time this will work. You have to make sure that you think critically, apply what you know, but in general, these are the steps that you want to take in finding your zeros. So good luck.